Okay. So the case today, before we get started, these guys don't know anything about this. This is our actual brush with a real celebrity. Somebody that you guys may actually know. None of these, I've taught this is the fourth or fifth time we've done this particular case. None people support. One of the cases is when to identify which makes me feel like they're not that much of a celebrity. But let's see if any of you can, because this person is even more famous now than they were during all the time that we had this class before. Does anybody know who this is? Anybody? So this was an attorney who represented or was a part of the team that represented the plaintiff side of this case. But nobody recognizes who he is? Oh, you guys. He's a groundbreaker. So nobody ever before in all of the history of the United States has had the position this person has had. Nope, that doesn't help? No? Let me give you a different picture of him. There it is. Does anybody know who it is now?
The first man.
The first man, that's crazy. The first gentleman. Or I guess he's technically the second gentleman. He may get promotion to the first gentleman. Yes, this is Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris. So you guys didn't, yes, she's married. I know, it's hard to believe. So he actually made the news for all the wrong reasons in the last couple of weeks. So apparently he was not so great. So it's his second marriage. His marriage didn't go so well. He knocked up the babysitter. So there was, then he hit his girlfriend. I mean, there's a bunch of things that sort of didn't go so well for him, and then kind of came in the last couple of weeks. But since you guys are not political people, I didn't expect you to know completely. But like this would be like a Michelle Obama or like a Melania Trump. Like you guys would recognize them. I hope maybe Melania Trump. So, but you've never seen him before? I know. I didn't. And he's white. It's even harder to check. Yes.
Are they both prosecutors?
He was a corporate defense attorney. I guess he's a corporate. So prosecution is like that's a criminal action, and then he's a plaintiff's attorney. So he's like a private one, but doing what you guys do. So yeah, I know. So that's Doug Emhoff. Okay, so anyway, I just thought we'd bring it. So today's case is an actual case. Ranch versus Taco Bell, the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Anybody know what the Sixth Circuit is? Where is the Sixth Circuit? Does anybody have any idea where the Sixth Circuit is? We are sitting in the Sixth Circuit. Okay, so the Sixth Circuit is this bizarre area that includes Ohio and Michigan and Kentucky, I think maybe Tennessee. It's got this really weird shape of states that it encompasses. But we are part of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they sit in Cincinnati. Okay. I did this case for 4 years before I looked at who the judge was. It turns out the judge is actually a personal friend of mine. Huh, how about that? So he's retired now. I should have him come in and talk to you. He would be a good guy to talk to. So, okay. So this is the case, and I gave you guys a set of facts about the case, and I may why don't I just distribute the facts and have them read them over? Do you feel like that would be appropriate? You guys have a chance to review the agreed upon facts. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you guys. This is a very fact-intensive case. So I'm going to give you guys a copy of the agreed upon facts, which are presented in a relatively neutral way. So why don't you take a couple minutes to read it over, and then we will start the sort of formal argumentation process. One more logistical note. I haven't, we got a couple remaining, so if you haven't, I didn't get to you, I will today, because that's on my agenda today. And you can pick up your papers if, there's this table over here. So I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to read, and then we will, we'll start the trial formally, okay?
Right. You got it.
All right. The U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Very honorable Matthew Fields presiding. And today's case is a case between Wrench and Taco Bell. There are two claims in this case. One is a claim for theft of copyrighted material, and the other is a claim for breach of implied contract. So I've given you guys the agreed upon facts, and I want to show before we even start, I mean, with plaintiff's permission, I'd like to show the commercial that is at the heart of this dispute. Is that okay? Can you kill the lights for a second? I don't know, we're not going to get a lot of sound. The sound is not the most important thing. The part of this lawsuit, and with that all being said, I'm going to turn it over to plaintiff's counsel for their opening statements. So fire away.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are the firms of Shepherd, Cochran, Henry, and Bonds. We are here today because Taco Bell violated its contract with Wrench LLC by illegally obtaining and utilizing copyright written content created by Thomas Ranks and Joseph Brooks. These two individuals are the original creators of the Psycho Chihuahua character. They dedicated their time, talent, and resources to creating a distinct, edgy, and very remarkable character. Additionally, they shared this character with Taco Bell with the idea that if it was utilized in advertising, Wrench LLC would be compensated. Taco Bell representatives approached Ranks and Shields in 1996, showing a strong interest in the Psycho Chihuahua and hoping that it would appeal to their target audience. Ranks and Shields helped Taco Bell artwork, advertising concepts, and ideas with a television commercial, using the live Chihuahua with their Psycho Chihuahua personality. However, Taco Bell eventually released a series of advertisements using a Chihuahua character based on the concepts and designs provided by Wrench LLC without compensating. Taco Bell's actions not only broke Wrench LLC's trust, but also a contract that was in fact in line. We're here to seek accountability for the breach of contract and to guarantee that Wrench LLC receives the adequate compensation for Taco Bell's improper use of their creativity.
Good opening statements. Okay. For the defense, we have an opening statement.
Yes. Your Honor, we are the law firm of Ryan, Rogers, Tipton, and Gomersall, and we are representing Taco Bell. Taco Bell was unjustly sued by Wrench LLC for allegedly breaking an implied contract and stealing an idea for a commercial. Even though Taco Bell used a Chihuahua in its commercials, it is quite different from the character portrayed in Wrench LLC's character, the Psycho Chihuahua. The dog portrayed by Wrench LLC has massive teeth, has a very scary attitude, and is extremely aggressive. In the commercial, the Chihuahua shown is a very calm, cool, and collective, with a burning desire for Taco Bell. Also, there was no implied contract, as Taco Bell made it clear in November of 1996 that if there were to use the Psycho Chihuahua idea, Wrench would have to pay Taco Bell for them to advertise the character. Will show that evidence proves that the idea to use a Chihuahua for a commercial was not a result of some stolen idea or broken contract.
Okay. All right. Okay. The two things are theft of copyrighted materials and breach of implied contract. Okay, so we'll start. We'll start with the theft of copyrighted material. I'm putting up right now the elements of the theft of copyrighted material. And I'd like the plaintiff's team to walk their way through the elements, proving each part of the elements, and speaking to some of the actual issues that may come up with the theft of copyrighted material. Okay.
Okay, so Wrench LLC owns the copyright to the Psycho Chihuahua character related to the creativity of the materials. So this covers the dog's unique characteristics of a clever, feisty, self-confident character, which we saw in the video. Kind of like did his own thing, walked up to the human, was like, "Hey, I want Taco Bell." So then this relates to the idea in the exploitation of the character in the commercials, and so therefore, Rings and Shields characters.
Okay, so the first thing is that Rich definitely owns the Psycho Chihuahua, right? And Psycho Chihuahua. Okay, so that's the first element. And your second element is that the defendant, that Taco Bell, violated their exclusive right to using the copyrighted material without authorization. So develop that part of the claim, like how did they use your material?
So they had like conversations about how they liked the idea of using the Chihuahua, and so Wrench LLC and Alfaro, which was the director at the time, they had conversations about like you sharing ideas. They shared like artboards, t-shirts, hats, and promotional designs like with Taco Bell about their concepts, and then Taco Bell took pieces from it and decided to create their own commercial, which was also an idea from Wrench LLC that they.
So did the defendant? So then, from your perspective, so that's the second element. They used materials and ideas from Wrench, right? Did they use them willfully? That's the third element. What do you think? So what is the measure of intent? Did they intend to use materials from your perspective that belonged originally to you? Materials and ideas.
I think they all along intended to use concepts of Wrench LLC.
And did they seek this commercial gain from this activity?
Yeah, because that was the whole point when they met them and they expressed interest in this.
Okay, so I think it's important here that we talk a little bit about what Psycho Chihuahua is, because the commercial is a live action commercial, right? Like and Psycho Chihuahua to this point in time was just a cartoon, correct? So in order for you as the plaintiff to prove that they're using or potentially using copyrighted material, you have to show that it's a derivative work, right? That's a derivative of the material, right? Because so like Disney has all these live action movies now, like The Lion King, right? The Lion King live action movie is a derivative work of the Lion King cartoon, right? Both owned by Disney, so no issues like that. But that's what that is. So what is it? So the derivative work. So you need to argue that even though they didn't use the actual Psycho Chihuahua, they used a derivative work. So how so? How did they use a derivative work?
Well, like I said, the whole idea behind the Psycho Chihuahua was that it is like a clever, feisty, and self-confident character, and that was displayed in the video. Although, and just in like a computer generated.
So let's talk a minute. So let me shift over. So I think you say your argument is that the Psycho Chihuahua, even though it's not the cartoon, which we'll show the cartoon here in a second, is not the derivative work. It's not. It is a derivative work. It is, a live action kind of version of the Psycho Chihuahua. Okay, and I think that everybody's reference is. Would you like to show the Psycho Chihuahua now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Psycho Chihuahua, these are the actual Psycho Chihuahua marketing materials to that date. So this is Psycho Chihuahua. We got this slide. You guys all see that? Okay. All right. And we've got this side, this slide. Okay. So with these two slides in mind, as a plaintiff's team, how would you argue that this is the Chihuahua in this case is a derivative work of this type of Chihuahua?
Okay, Mr. Alfaro met with Rick Shields, Scanlon, and Seidman during an all-day brainstorming session where they made plans to find future endeavors with the marketing idea, where the participants walked through various concepts, all focusing on the concept of the Chihuahua obsessed with Taco Bell food, specifically an idea involving a Chihuahua passing up an attractive dog, which we saw in the commercial. And this is specifically a live action rendition of the Chihuahua.
Right. So from the actual court case, this was the comparison chart that they put in place. This was the 90s, so they didn't have advanced graphics. So that's why it looks like it was printed on a dot matrix printer, because it probably was. Okay. So this was the comparison chart that was entered into the record, comparing the Psycho Chihuahua versus the Taco Bell Chihuahua. Before we get to the defense and the defenses that we have, how would you like to frame up this particular chart? What comments would you like to make about this chart? Jason?
I think it's strange how much of it like really lines up with each other. Like out of the 10 that are up there, I would say like 8 of them are very similar, if not the exact same to the Psycho Chihuahua as the Taco Bell Chihuahua. Like they're both unique, they both have attitude. They're confident, able to take on the master of this situation, both clever, both humorous, cool. And then the spicy Mexican personality and lively salsa music could also be kind of tied in a little bit together as well.
Okay, so yeah. So Chihuahua is a, it sounds, I mean, is it a Mexican? I mean, not technically, I guess, but it's sort of is. Sounds, because I mean, it's sort of naturally associated with Mexican food and culture, would you say? I think so. Okay. So there are several defenses that you have to the theft of copyrighted material. So let me turn it over to the defense team. And those are novelty and independent creation. Okay. So how would you guys like to argue for novelty?
Would you go to the slide with the comparisons?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I also have that commercial that was made by your ad. So, okay, go ahead. So, yeah, why don't you, from your perspective, when you look at that comparison chart, what do you think?
So it's pretty much all about how the dog acts, his attitude. It says he has attitude. He's either quirky or edgy. He's clever, humorous. But it really doesn't talk about the appearance. I mean, the appearance is very different from those images we saw to what was in the commercial. In the images, the dog had very sharp, jagged teeth. He had eyes disproportionate to his head. So these are all very altered images of what a Chihuahua would actually look like. But in the commercial, it is just a normal Chihuahua. And how much can you really gather on its attitude if it's just walking? I mean, it only said one line the entire time, Yo quiero Taco Bell. It never really implied that it was edgy or that it was unique, other than the fact that it talked.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay. The other, so getting back to the legal arguments that you have. So before we get to so novelty is the idea that that there's some things that can't be copyrighted, right? Like a mouse, for instance, right? Could be Mickey Mouse or Ratatouille, or like people use mice or Speedy Gonzalez, right? So there's like lots of different mice, and an animated mouse by itself can't be copyrighted. So the question is, like, what about the idea that the copyrighted material or the material that was copied is not really copyrightable? How's that? That's probably the right way to say that.
Well, the company that created the commercial, which was Chiat Day, they had a history of using Chihuahuas in their commercials. They had a
Okay, so that's speaking to the idea of independent creation. So what you can go with, so like, yeah, this is a good question. So from your perspective, how was the commercial created? And why is it a completely independent creation?
Well, they also figured out the idea when two of the people from that company were on
So when you say they, you mean who's they?
Chiat Day.
So Chiat Day, and who's Chiat Day?
They're an independent agency that was hired to create a commercial for Taco Bell.
Okay, so Chiat Day was independent agency, and how did they create the Taco Bell dog?
They were at a Mexican restaurant one day and they saw a Chihuahua walk across the sidewalk and just completely surpassed everything, and the female dog was just on a mission to go somewhere.
And that's how they came up with the idea. But when you said they also used dogs, and even a Chihuahua maybe in their prior advertising. So let's take a look at the prior advertising so that they came up with. So why don't you flip the lights again? And so this is a dependent exhibit having to do with independent creation. The Nissan commercial created by Chiat Day, who was hired by Taco Bell, who also produced the Taco Bell commercial.
I think I'll take Rabbit for that.
Chiat Day commercial for Nissan, which is not Taco Bell. Flip the light back. So what observations do you want to make about that commercial to bolster your idea of independent creation?
You could argue that that dog was very independent and confident, just like the one used in the Taco Bell commercial.
Okay.
I mean, it is really it is the exact same dog used in that commercial that was used in this commercial.
You mean
So-
you mean like in real life?
It is physically the exact same dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there was an equivalent word for actor, is dog, it's the same actor dog. Okay. It's the same Spudman Kids. I guess I don't know who that is, but he was Fear Dog. Okay. All right. So would anybody else on your team like to chip in how the independent creation came about, or what this commercial says about Chiat Day and the independent creation process? No? Okay, all right. So to wrap up this, so is there anything about, from the defense's perspective, is there anything you'd like to say about the use of the Taco Bell dog itself, and why Taco Bell may have not wanted to just adopt wholesale the Psycho Chihuahua as their mascot. Any ideas?
The dog could rub people the wrong way with some of the things that it has been represented by.
Do you have any examples of that?
The visual examples.
What? They can't see it, like the people who are watching this can't see it. So what is it? They can only see you on camera. So why don't you walk through like some of what Taco Bell may have not wanted to have out as their spokesperson for their restaurant?
So on some of the posters that the Psycho Chihuahua is represented on, it says, quote, "Nice people suck." And it's a dog eat dog world, it's a dog eat Taco Bell world, which is quite interesting. But it also says, quote, "Bite me." So I don't think that is a great representation for Taco Bell.
Okay, notice you avoided a couple of the ones. Since you don't want to say it, so I'll have to come up and say it. So the other one says small dog, huge balls, which is a little bit offensive to some people. And the more I drink, the better you look, which with a very angry dog. So and then this other what does this one have on it that might be a little bit? This was all pre 9/11, but anything for the stuff. Go ahead. What you might find objectionable or just not desirable to use as a corporate mascot?
Well, on the right, we have an image of the Psycho Chihuahua holding a pack of dynamite on its back with its finger over the trigger, waiting to blow something up.
So it's about to blow himself up. Okay.
Kamikaze bomb.
Yeah. So this says, what does it say? Arm, disarm. Okay, so it's arms. Okay. And then what's the other one?
I don't know. It looks like he's tearing through some mascot, but I mean, his eyes are huge and he's tearing through it with his teeth.
Okay. So it's like, so it's a smiley face, right? It says wipe that stupid grin off your face. Okay. That's just for the people that are here so that they have some idea what it is that we're looking at. So otherwise it might be a little bit a strange discussion. Okay. So any other arguments related to this theft of copyrighted materials? And I'll give the plaintiff team a chance to redirect. No other arguments? Okay. Plaintiff team, in light of all of that, is there anything you want to respond to that in terms of the theft of copyrighted material before we get to the breach of implied contract?
I think for one, there's only so much in a live action commercial that you can animate. And showing the spunky personality that the Chihuahua did have, the confidence, those are the things you can't animate. Those are the things that you have to portray through actions of something that can't speak for itself, unless it wants Taco Bell. Yo quiero Taco Bell, In addition to this, to claim that Taco Bell didn't want to be represented by that, I don't think that's entirely truthful, because they had to have been interested in it, or else they wouldn't have gone through the negotiations of at least the contract regarding this very dog here. And this may have led to the eventual disintegration of their old advertisements. We don't know for sure. But we do know for sure that the negotiations were made and that Alfaro was still within the company under the new people, and they were immediately contacted as soon as that advertisement was aired. And when they were contacted, it was said that it would be a one-time advertisement, which we don't know for sure. But we do know that ad was aired, and it does mimic the storyboard that was shown and that was negotiated with monetary incentive. There was no money. Actually, we'll leave that for the.
Okay, so yeah, we'll get to the breach of implied contract claim. Okay, so okay,
But
yeah.
to piggyback off of that, I think it's just important to remember that in this case of like theft of copyright materials, we are just trying to prove that there is a certain distinction of similarities here, and that they were trying to convey a certain character based off of this Psycho Chihuahua. So although it doesn't look exactly the same, there are bits and pieces that have been taken and those are ideas that are copyrighted.
And it's your contention that those are copyrightable characteristics, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's fine. All right. Right, let's go to the second, let's pivot then to the second claim. And the second claim is the breach of implied contract. So when we have an implied contract, we didn't actually, because to be clear, the parties never actually formally signed a contract, right, between either party. So there was no physical contract signed and agreed to by both parties. An implied contract is this type of situation where you drop off your clothes at the dry cleaner, you don't sign anything. You show up the next day, they clean the clothes, there's the prices on the wall, you pay for the prices, right? It's an implied contract, it's never actually written down, but you're allowed to rely on it as a basis of the behavior of both parties. One to pay for the materials and the other one to provide whatever goods and services they're providing. Okay, so in a normal contract, you have the four basic elements: agreement, consideration, contractual capacity, and legality. But in an implied contract, these are the elements that you have to prove. That you, the plaintiff, that Wrench provided some good or service, that the plaintiff, that you, Wrench, expected to be paid for those services or property, and the defendant, Taco Bell, knew or should have known that that payment was expected, and the defendant had a chance to reject the goods or services, but did not. So from the perspective of Wrench LLC, please walk your way through the elements and prove for those, and these guys, you as the jury should be taking notes, prove the elements from the plaintiff's perspective.
So, under the impression of an implied contract, we're stating that, Wrench LLC did help hold up their side of the deal, and there was compensation that should have been, given to Wrench LLC. So Taco Bell's Rudy Pollack and Alfonso expressed an interest in the Psycho Chihuahua in June of 1996. They got materials from Wrench LLC, fully aware that Wrench had generated and owned these materials. Alfaro explicitly requested these boards and promotional products featuring the Psycho Chihuahua, indicating that Taco Bell's intentions were to use these test concepts for use.
Okay, so the property that you're talking about, from your perspective, that's an issue here. How would you sort of summarize what that property is that you're providing on your end of the contract?
On our end of the contract is just ideas. They liked their idea of the Psycho Chihuahua, and they wanted them to like expand on that in a way that Taco Bell could use it. So then they provided them with such materials and.
Okay.
And piggybacking off of what she said, in providing these materials, well, initially free of charge, the use of those materials in the future, whether it directly concluded with this commercial here, but the specific use of the ideas or the commercials implies that we are expecting some sort of compensation for the work that we put into it.
Okay, so you're speaking to the second element right now directly, so that in this process of negotiation, Taco Bell knew or should know that you guys expected to be paid for the creative work ideas that you were presenting, right? Okay, all right. And then speak to this last idea of rejection. Did Taco Bell, from your perspective, reject the goods or services? If yes, how? If no, why not? So,
No, because Taco Bell, they did not reject Wrench's offers. They continued to engage and evaluate these ideas for promotional proposals. And it says that in November 1996, they confirmed the expectation of payments with Taco Bell, but Taco Bell never rejected it.
okay. Okay, so turning to the defense. Okay. How would you like to address the arguments of Wrench LLC when it comes to this implied contract?
So I'd like to focus on contractual capacity. We had talks with Ed Alfaro, and he was just a worker that worked in the department for handled print and video production, and they were working on things like a retail licensing program. So it was stated that anything that they agreed upon would have to go through the marketing department. So if they made an agreement on something, the marketing department would have to approve that. But in November, when they proposed it to Alfaro's supervisor, which is Pollock, who is someone who actually would have had some authority, it was rejected. And it was stated that the creators, so Tom Rinks and Joseph Shields, would actually have to pay Taco Bell to use the character as sort of advertising for them. So instead of Taco Bell having to pay, they expected payment. And when the proposal was rejected, they expected that it was all over. The only person that continued to go along with this was Alfaro, who had no capacity to be dealing on Taco Bell's behalf.
So the argument from Taco Bell's perspective is that Wrench was talking to the wrong person inside of Taco Bell. Because, and so you kind of hit on that, but I think I want to press that point a little bit. So inside of Taco Bell is this guy Alfaro, and he does, what was his actual title?
He is working in the department that handled print and video production and the creation of brochures, among other things. He was working on a retail licensing program.
So retail licensing program, and what, explain through, because you talked through it and it was good, but I want to make sure everybody catches that. From Taco Bell's perspective, why would Wrench pay Taco Bell to use Psycho Chihuahua?
Because in the program that he's in, basically what he would be doing is he would be putting the Chihuahua on merchandise. So that would be cups, that would be t-shirts, that would be Taco Bell posters, but the Chihuahua would be put on there. So it would basically be an advertising thing for the Chihuahua. Taco Bell isn't really the one benefiting from this. So that's why Taco Bell would be the one being compensated.
So if it wasn't Wrench, if it was Disney, right? And we were putting a new movie, like Encanto or whatever that is, right? Like, how would that be similar? How would that be like, talk us through as if that's the situation?
So that would be different, because if we were using Disney, we're using a already well-marketed product to put on our things. So that is going to bring a lot of money to us. But this Chihuahua is not very well marketed. Not very many people know of the Chihuahua. So we are doing them a favor by putting them on all of our products. Disney would be a different scenario.
Okay, so which is a great distinction, a great point of distinction, right? So you would be using Disney to drive your business in that scenario, but from your perspective, your business would drive more, your placement of Psycho Chihuahua, if you place them, would drive more business to their enterprise.
Yes.
So the perspective is like the power is different.
Yes.
Right. Okay, that's well enough. Okay, so let me give the plans a chance to redirect. And then I'm gonna ask some questions to both sides, and then we'll go to the juries. So we'll do closing statements and we'll go to the juries. Okay, so chance to redirect. Anything about what they just said? What's any counter arguments on the jury?
Previous statements, I do think that, like, while what you say is true, I think it's important to remember that they did not reject any ideas which led to the idea of the commercial, and that's what we're arguing here, is that those ideas and that time and dedication that Ranch LLC gave to Taco Bell was in turn not compensated, and that consequently led to this commercial, which is the agreement or the.
This commercial was the first of multiple commercials to use the Chihuahua, right, in multiple ways. So it wasn't. So the commercial didn't end up being a one-off commercial. It ended up being a marketing campaign that was very, very successful, right? I mean, have you guys seen the Taco Bell dog? Never. No?
Because in their argument, they're saying that they wanted to market like the original Psycho Chihuahua, which is not the argument here. The argument is that their ideas led to this.
Okay. All right, so let me ask each side a couple of questions and then we'll do closing statements. So, from the perspective of, I'll argue from Taco Bell's perspective. So this is Psycho Chihuahua, right? And Psycho Chihuahua looks mean and nasty, very edgy. So why is the dog that was walking through that commercial Psycho Chihuahua?
Is that Russell?
Yeah, that's for you guys to answer.
The conversations that we had with Taco Bell, we had conversed back and forth, but with Alvaro, which now we know was not in their actual marketing, but the conversations we did have with an individual from Taco Bell shows that our information and storyboarding that we wrote for a commercial was in fact a reflection of what was presented in the commercial, therefore representing the Psycho Chihuahua and how he would act if he wanted Taco Bell.
Okay, all right. Okay, and in terms of like what happened with any contracts from Wrench's perspective? Did you have a contract that you presented to Taco Bell, or like how would they know that they're expected to be paid, that you're expecting to be paid?
We had stated that on November 18th, 1996, Strategy Licensing presented a proposal to Taco Bell, as well as additional concept materials supplied by Wrench. The proposal was based on a percentage of merchandise sales and advertising using plaintiff's Chihuahua image, and included a minimum payment of $1.7 million over 4 years.
So they proposed a certain arrangement.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. Okay. Let's flip over to yeah. How would you guys like to respond to any of that, and then I'll ask you a couple questions.
Well, if you continue reading to like the next sentence here, on November 1996, November 18, 1996, it was clearly rejected, as stated, it was out of line. It was a total mistaken idea as to what the relationship would be.
Okay. So the Taco Bell's perspective is they were presented a contract that was far out of line with with the type of arrangement that they talked about, which you already talked through. Okay. Okay. So when you look at the how would you differentiate from the comments that ended up in the advertisement from the storyboard idea that was presented among other ideas from Wrench?
Well, I think that some of the ways that they are like comparing the two are quite vague, like saying something's clever, like we saw in the Taco Bell commercial, a Chihuahua walking down the street and, saying it's one line. I find it hard to believe that you can compare that with the Psycho Chihuahua by saying clever to the both of them when I think that's a pretty vague way. Same with like unique and humorous, like the kind of vague ways to describe two things. I feel like that's a bit of a reach to say that they're
right. So okay. So these are some of the Psycho Chihuahua marketing materials. Which one would you think would be most appropriate to sort of glom onto and say, instead of saying that, you could say Yo Quiero Taco Bell?
I don't really see one where it would.
Yeah. Okay. So what does that infer?
The personalities of the two dogs are wildly different, and although you could say one is clever for one reason and one is clever for another reason, I don't think that the Taco Bell commercial was built off of the idea of the Psycho Chihuahua.
Okay. All right. So let's Was there anything else that you guys wanted to address? Last chance to address any additional arguments before we get into closing statements? No? All right, closing statements then. Let's start with the plaintiff. Why don't you give your closing statement and then we'll give instructions to the jurors.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence given today is straightforward. Taco Bell violated Wrench LLC's intellectual property rights and broke an implied contract. Brinks and Shields, the Psycho Chihuahuas creators, were promised recompense for their creative efforts, which helped create Taco Bell's commercial campaign. Despite a continuous connection, Taco Bell continued to use their resources without consent or payment, while profiting significantly from their creativity. We're coming to seek justice. Taco Bell must be held accountable for this breach and theft, ensuring that Wrench LLC receives the compensation they deserve.
Okay, all right. Defendant, would you like to make your closing statement?
Yes, Taco Bell has wrongly been accused of theft of copyrighted material and a breach of implied contract. It has damaged the reputation of Taco Bell and has put them in a negative public spotlight. The character portrayed by Wrench LLC is different than the actual dog used in the Taco Bell. There were no serious talks between people in the marketing department about a contract for either side. There was in no way, shape, or form a theft committed by Taco Bell.
Right. Well done. What we're gonna do now is we're going to the jury. There are two claims that you will have to adjudicate as a jury. The first is the claim of product confusion, which is the copyrighted material. The second claim is the breach of implied contract. So each one of them has an overarching question, which you have to answer. Was there a product conversion, which is theft of copyrighted material? Was there a breach of the implied contract? And then there's sub questions that you have to answer underneath those, as well as the jury. So I'm going to break up into three juries. So I'm going to number you off. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. So we have 2 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. The case, you don't have to decide this in a civil court. You don't have to decide things unanimously. If you're in a group of 3, 2 of 3 have to decide. If you're in a group of 4, 3 of 4 have to decide. Okay? So you have to have unanimous. So team 1 or group 1, jury 1 over this corner here. Jury 2 in let's do right here where you are. And then jury 2 will be over there back in that corner. Okay. Thanks so much, and let me know when you're complete.